Hello everybody, Andy here, and today I'm going to be looking over everything that we've just learned from the, whatever it's called, the No Holds Barred Kill Team Nova Open Competitive Showcase. It was done at 1 a.m. My time, like half one, 2 a.m., something like that. So I wasn't awake for it, but I did go back and check. Now there were some issues with the playback. So the stream online, it's only actually there. You can watch it on Twitch yourself, but only from turn two onwards. So I had to ask around in my Discord for hey, what happened in turn one, etc. So I'm just going to relay that information to you right now. It's going to be very chilled out, very relaxed. Don't worry about it. What did we learn? We learned quite a lot. We didn't learn everything, obviously. However, as I will go through this slide in a moment, I've laid everything out nice and clearly for you. The reason I did this is because I have to make content for my YouTube channel, but more specifically, because when I woke up, nobody else had done it, and I was like, guys, what are you doing? Like, I assumed I could just go to Reddit or Facebook, or even not my own Discord, and everybody would have already listed out everything. I was like, no one's done it. Okay. Anyway, so the two players slash presenters were Alexa and Adrian. Alexa was the one of them is the ITC World Number One, I think. I think that's Adrian, and Alexa is the Australian winner of the last World Championship that they did, and they were, I guess, both at Nova. I assume they're also playing in the Nova Championships. I'm going to look at the reports for that later. I would say, so this is a little bit of a double-edged sword here, but they both did a really good job of presenting, and by presenting, what I really mean is having an active discussion between two players. If, in my opinion, they did a good job, just to clarify. But I feel like the way they were talking about it is and discussing the game is just how a regular game of Kill Team should be played. There should always be a back and forth dialogue. So if you want to see how that should sound, I'd highly recommend you go and check that out, because that is basically how your game should be. Except for when Mike B, that is Mike Brandt, he's the head of kind of GW organized events, basically. I think for the world, for the company, but he's specifically North American. Although at Warhammer Fest last year before, he headed that as well. So you could regularly hear him. He wasn't mic'd up, but you could hear him talking off camera, saying to them, "Hey, can you explain what you're thinking, or can you explain that rule, please?" And he did a pretty good job of telling us like when that should happen. Although Alexa and Adrian did a great job, they were still ultimately trying to play a game, and so there were times when it just went quiet for like 30 seconds as they tried to figure things out, and then Mike would say, "Guys, can you say what you're thinking?" And then they started talking. But again, everyone did a great job. No commentators. So there was a commentator, but he never spoke. In fact, the only time he spoke, I don't know who it was, because presumably any sort of when you introduce yourself, introduction would have been before the stream cut off, so we don't have all of turn one, setup, deployment, etc. I managed to glean a few things from that though, don't worry. That's a weird one. So I don't know if you went ahead and watched the Spearhead kind of invitational showcase match that they did. They primarily had the commentators talking over the top of the players there, and I had wished they didn't do that. But in this one, they opted to not have any commentators, and I wonder, just from GW's perspective, are they thinking they looked back at the Spearhead one and said, okay, everybody said they didn't like hearing the commentators, let's just mic the players and do that? Or if they care less and so didn't feel commentators were worth it. I think it's very interesting. There are, of course, a lot of knowledgeable Kill Team people that present well, so it's a shame that nobody did that. If I'm honest, I actually thought, so Squad Games, Dakota there, is at Nova, and I actually assumed that it was going to be like a little bit of a surprise and he was going to commentate on it. So Bit weird. Anyway, cool. Right, let's crack on, shall we? So everyone did a good job. There you go. That's what I'm saying. Let's get into the rules. So Overwatch is gone, although not entirely. So it is exactly what you would expect, except it's now called counteract. When your operatives are expended, expended seems to be the new terminology for not ready, which I think is fair because saying not ready is a bit weird, right? You should say another word instead of they're not that thing. So now we're saying they are this thing, expended. Cool. You can perform any one AP action. So this would mean, from what we know, you can't fall back, but anything else you can do. So that could be tapping the point, that could be shooting, that could be fighting, that could be charging. It could be anything that is one AP action. However, if you shoot, you are not at -1 to hit. So it's just a normal shoot. And if you do move of any sort, so it just says move, so reposition, dash, charge, you can only move 2 inches. This is obviously pretty big. It's going to really help elite teams. Not that, I know that in the current meta, elite teams aren't doing great, but if you think a year ago, elite teams were literally the top of the food pile. So do they need this this buff when perhaps it's not exactly needed? Who knows? It'll be very interesting to see, but this is whatever, a cool buff, because of course, yes, it's a buff to elite teams, but it's also, in a sense, a buff to the losing player, or the player that's getting wrecked the most. So, good to see. Right. Obscurity gone. So this is, we heard from leaks that obscurity was changed. Obscurity is not gone. It's there, very much so, but they've changed it. So first things first, there's no dead zone, which is, if you're within 1 inch of terrain, you're in terrain, you're in cover. If you're between 1 and 2 inches, you have nothing, you don't have cover, you don't have obscurity. If you're 2 inches plus, you are obscured. That's gone, there's no dead zone, cool. Although Dead Zone is a game from Vantage and is very good, and you should play that. However, if you shoot someone that is obscured, you cannot retain a crit. Any crits you roll become normal successes. Cool. And then also, if you roll any successes, which obviously would include your crits, you have to discard one of them. So if you roll four crits, all of those crits become normals and you discard one. So you only get 3 hits. So I kind of then put here, maybe ignore obscure is more common. So like a year ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I have it on my channel on record that I think non-reciprocal is really bad, and this removes non-reciprocal because now if someone can shoot you, you can shoot them. It is reciprocal by definition. However, for anyone that can do basic maths, you can see that if you are shooting at an obscured model, you shouldn't, unless you have ignore obscuring. So this is, don't get me wrong, I think this is a good change. I think this is definitely a positive, because the just saying, hey, you can't do anything is really, it's very feels bad, it's not good. Now you can say, hey, I've only got a snowball's chance here, but I can do something. And that is good. That is good change. And really, the only other thing I could say is if you want to debate whether or not obscurity, non-reciprocal should exist, to my mind, this is still non-reciprocal. You should never take this shot. If the only thing you can do in the game with your 1 AP action is shoot, I guess you can do it, but almost any other action is going to be more valuable to you than taking an obscured shot. There you go. So, non-reciprocal, technically gone, but effectively still there. Unless, and this is why I put the last bullet point here, maybe ignore obscure is more common. Maybe we're going to find more obscurity ignoring effects in the game because, as I say, being obscured is still really, really powerful. And they also confirmed, that you can also retain cover while being obscured. So just imagine that. You can retain a dice, and the enemy has to get no crits and discard a hit. Yeah, not strong for as an action you can take. A step up, but as far as I'm concerned, still non-reciprocal. Cool. Vantage points have changed. So, for every floor that you're on, you get to retain a success. So just a normal. So, you know, much like with cover, you can retain a normal. You can't retain a crit. So that's interesting. Interesting thing you can do here. But also, the Vantage floor provides cover now, which is a huge change to the game, let's be honest. So it seems like they've just buffed Vantage hugely, which is really strange because unless there's something else going on in the game that we don't know about, because again, we don't know everything, Vantage points were already very strong. I don't know kind of why they've allowed it to provide cover and you retain a hit when you shoot from it. Seems very strange. Maybe there will be other rules that kind of negate that. I don't know. But just to clarify a little bit here, so the Vantage floor provides cover, by which I mean if you're on the ground and shooting up, they always have cover. They don't need to be next to like a palisade wall or anything, or like a turret. They get cover from the floor, which I think thematically makes total sense. Is a good change because it was always a little bit odd that that a floor wouldn't give you it, you know. But yeah, cool. So we had one of the guys was on the second floor of the Vulcus terrain, the ruins, and he retained 2 hits. Just don't roll them, retain 2. Very super strong, if I'm honest. Okay. Initiative. So initiative is such a big deal in Kill Team. I had kind of hoped they were going to really mix things up with initiative. I don't know in what way. That's not my job. I'm not the game designer. But I was hoping things were going to get funky. Don't know how. So initiative is still a thing. However, whoever doesn't have initiative gets 2 CP instead of 1. Now I like that. That seems good. But if you think about how initiative in turn 2 and 3 often goes, you have one thing you want to do, right? You have, I can do here, kill a plasma. I can do this thing, kill a guy, tap a point, that's mine for the turn, right? Initiative is really, really strong in Kill Team. Don't get me wrong, 2 CP is going to mitigate it a bit, but I would have liked something more. We shall see. Again, we don't know everything at this point. This is just me kind of spitballing about thinking of the current edition, the game that I play, and thinking, how would this affect this? I'm kind of taking each one in a vacuum. Perhaps with all these things combined, we will have a totally different game on our hands. Right, let's keep going. Deployment. So, everyone deploys concealed. However, you can flip your order to engage turn 1, and you also can't score turn 1. So this is huge, obviously. So the whole game of Kill Team, honestly, was quite defined by how you play turn 1. And now it kind of feels like turn 1 is just going to be another normal turn, which is interesting. I feel like this could slow the game down and make everything just take longer, because turn 1 is no longer the turn of movement, it's just another normal turn. Except, sorry, for the one benefit here is it will speed up actually deploying, because, let's be honest, it was quite often that people would sit there putting their models into groups thinking, I've got to have a threat on the board, so I've got to have something on an engage, and that's got to hide behind here. And then when you're moving up, in fairness, you've always got to be aware that they have that one model that can get you. But now they have every model that can get you. So it'll be interesting to see how playstyles change based on this. But, you know, I've played turn 2, 3, and 4 before in games of Kill Team once or twice, you know. Haven't been table turn 1 every game. And things tend to go relatively slow because you have, you know, 10 models aside, you've got to do some stuff. Whereas at least in turn 1, you used to kind of say, I know you've got that one gunner, so once you've moved that, I can move freely, and kind of vice versa. So, but your first few moves were quite simple because you knew you can't flip order, so you're staying concealed. Interesting. Okay. Oh, and you can't score turn 1. So that completely changes how we're going to have to think about Kill Team and scoring and winning the game. I think I have a bit more on objectives in the next slide or one soon. But not being able to score turn one, yeah, honestly, totally changes the game. Can't even really wrap my head around it. With the three objectives, which again we'll touch on in a second, and not being able to score turn one, totally different. Oh, and tack ops. We get to it. Hold on. Right, objectives. Oh, it was the next slide. It's pretty good going. Well done, me. So, they were playing the mission secure. That's their crit op, I think. Yep, the crit op is the primary mission, kind of. Except we can't say primary mission because that is a thing, that is a rule. We have to call it the crit op. Annoying, no matter. So they were playing secure, which obviously we do know from our current edition. But now, the way you score is if you have one objective, you hold one, that's a point. And if you hold more than your opponent, you get a second point. Now, obviously, since there are only 3 objectives on the board, logically, you either hold one, and there's no point saying hold 2 because you hold more, right? And I guess this does cover it if you ever want to have more than 3 objectives as well. Cool. So that's cool. Do note here, it seems that we can only score each op, crit op, tack op, kill op, 2 VP a turn, it seems. So it looks like we're, because you can't score turn 1. So it looks like we're maxing each out at 6. Don't know, but that kind of tracks in line with what we've seen from the kill op already. And it seems that secure, since you can only, the crit op, since you can only score 2 a turn, 6. And then we can also assume that the tack op is also 6. So they were playing 2 tack ops called Confirm Kill, which was from Seek Destroy and Plant Beacons. I can't remember what that was from. There you go. Good stuff, me. They both seemed to be, you just need to stand near a thing. For the Plant Beacons, they placed that down before the game, much like we currently have. For Confirm Kill, they killed a guy, an operative, and put down a token, and then they just stood next to that, and then at the end of the turn, I think, they scored it. Cool. However, worthy of note, both of them only had a single tack op. So the 2 tack ops there were Plant Beacon and Confirm Kill. No longer were they shuffling through 6 and picking 3. Presumably, they shuffled through 6 and picked 1, which is good, if I'm honest. I like that change. Just inherently, you know, having 1 objective to score sounds like a positive. We'll see how it all plays out. Obviously, it's gonna. We will find out very quickly if we end up with everybody drawing all of their games max scored, right? So we'll see how that actually plays on the table soon. Hopefully, it's a little bit more back and forth. Certainly from the crit op, obviously you either score 1 or you score 2, and the way you do that is by holding more than the enemy. So logically, they would be scoring 1 or less than you. So cool. Every turn, somebody should be losing on the crit op, even if you are maxing everything else. All right, let's keep going. Smoke. So they used a smoke grenade, which is cool, and they explained how it works. So a smoke grenade makes you obscured unless you are within 2 inches of it, so you can ignore it just by being close enough, which means that the 2-inch rule of being able to always treat someone as if they're on and engaged and not in cover within 2 inches remains. That's good. Good to know. It's a fundamental rule of Kill Team. It's good that it's still there. Makes sense. However, big change. This one sounds very interesting. So it lasts for D3 activations in the next turn. So you throw your grenade, it's there for the whole turn. That's how it currently works. Cool. As soon as you swap to the next turning point, your smoke grenade goes. This will often leave one of your guys just in the open, right? Just like, what do I do? And chances are good, because you're just in the open, because you were relying on that smoke grenade, you are now in a position of vulnerability, and you're going to get wrecked, to be honest. And so you are an instant turn 1 first activation liability. Now, you roll a D3, the smoke grenade will last for that many activations. Presumably, it is back and forth activations, not just your activation or just your enemy activations. So if you roll 3, or 6, sorry, it would be, you know, the enemy goes, that's 1, you go, that's 2, the enemy goes, that's 3, it's back to you, your smoke's gone, you can do something. Interesting. Very cool, I like it. It always felt a bit thematically odd that a smoke grenade just disappeared. It kind of, but yeah, cool. You get it. It's cool. Nice. Stronghold. So these are the things that are buildings on Volcus. So it looks like they've made them mini into the darks on an open board. So it's quite interesting in that regard. Do note, we didn't see anybody use the guard action that you can use on Into the Dark. So I'm not saying when you're in there, you use the Gallo Dark rules. Doesn't seem to be the case. However, they have brought over some interesting things. So, as you know, in confined areas, confined kill zone, whatever it's called, Blast and Torrent get lethal 5 up if you are shooting into the stronghold. So we see it on the stream. Somebody stood outside of the stronghold and they shoot inside it, and their Torrent, they were using the Flamer, gets lethal 5, which is exactly what happens in Gallo Dark. Very cool. However, the flip side is that if you are inside, up on the wall, up on the palisade, up on the barrier, whatever it's called, and you fight, and you're fighting, and they've charged you, and they're on the outside of that wall, and you're on the inside, even though they've charged and they fight, your benefit for being, in the stronghold is you get to fight first, which is pretty cool. Let's be honest. How often is that going to come up? Because presumably it's a traverse to get to the other side of the wall, which means your charge is going to be just your normal move, so 6 instead of 8. You'll probably be able to make it to the other side, but maybe it comes up every now and again, so that's cool. But anytime you are able to fight first, it totally throws the enemy off, so this is a good change. Because, of course, fighting is incredibly lethal. They mentioned that you need to have visibility to control a marker. I believe they were talking about the objective marker for kill confirmed. Yeah. And they got a kill from somebody inside the stronghold. They were outside the stronghold, and they moved to within whatever it was of that kill confirmed marker. And they actually called the TO, the judge, whatever, over and said, can I score this? And they confirmed you need visibility to score these things. So that is a change from the current edition, if you're not aware. You can score the objective from the other side of a completely solid wall. In fact, that's how most people set up Octarius maps in the tournament scene. That you always have a safe spot to hide behind a wall, often for home objectives. So that's a big change. Odd as it might sound, but for some reason, and I didn't quite hear, again, because the judge was not mic'd up for this, but the stronghold wall doesn't block visibility. I don't know if that's just for markers or if that's in general, so you can always shoot through or over them, and yeah, I don't know. Again, we're working with a little bit incomplete data sets on this one, guys. My bad. So presumably, therefore, if you're in a stronghold, you are always visible, can always be shot. Unless you're on who knows, but that's the thing. Special rules. So Ceaseless has changed. It is now reroll all of a number. So it's not just reroll ones. It used to be reroll all ones. Now it could be reroll, much like Cold to Ambush, etc. So you roll your dice, your 50 dice, however many it is these days. Who knows? I didn't even play the game. And if you roll 3 2s, you can say I'm going to re-roll 2s after you've seen that roll, and you pick up everything that's a 2 and you re-roll them. Nice. I like that. It's instantly more powerful than re-roll 1s, but it's still nowhere near as powerful as just Relentless. So that's cool. No Cover has changed name to Saturate. They specifically call that out, and in my mind, Saturate as a word doesn't have as much oomph as No Cover. However, because of the number of times I had to tell people, no cover doesn't mean you can shoot them when they're concealed behind cover. This makes sense. This was a complaint right from the first 2 weeks of Kill Team, because no cover is very confusing because cover has a definition and a word and it means something else. So it's good that they cleared that up. Awesome. And I think that's it. Oh yeah, okay, that's everything. That's even bigger than me. Thanks for watching, everybody. drop a comment letting me know how cool I am. Thank you. Bye.